So, as you may or may not have heard, Icelandic actor Stefan Karl died recently, and I decided to capitalize a little on that event by making a video about it like all the other vultures. I didn't intend for that to happen though. I wanted to make a video talking about him earlier when the news broke that his operation had been successful and he was going to live a little longer. Because people love to appreciate others once they're gone, so I thought it would be a nice change of pace to instead appreciate someone while they're still here and celebrate that they are. However, I never made that video. For the same reason I ended up not making most of the videos I would like to make. My depression got in the way. I postponed and procrastinated until I decided it was too late. So now here I am instead, when it's definitely too late. I don't like it when people jump up on the bandwagon carrying someone's corpse, suddenly seeming to care so deeply. But I have wanted an opportunity to talk about Stefan Karl for a long time now, even before hearing about his cancer, and unfortunately it's probably the last good time to do so. So since I missed all the other better times, here it is now. Like most people, I got to know Stefan as Robbie Rotten, his character in Lazy Town. I had a rather strange relationship with that show that bears explaining before I go any further. I initially saw it advertised in commercials when it first aired in Sweden, but didn't actually watch it because like most shows we didn't have any of the channels it was running on. It wasn't until years later when I decided to watch it on YouTube. At this time I was in my early teens and was going through some rough times. It was that period in life when it was slowly dawning on me just how much life sucks, and I sought to cope with it through desperate means. I wrote edgy poetry, listened to somber piano music, fabricated delusions that I was in fact an alien in a weirdly otherkin-like fashion. It was a phase in my life I'm not proud of, but nonetheless deemed necessary to have gotten where I am today. One of my less embarrassing ways of coping was to watch Lazy Town. I have no idea why I decided at some point to watch a show I had no nostalgia for or other form of connection to beyond the aforementioned having heard of it. But one night when I should have been sleeping but was being kept awake by melancholy as usual, I searched it up on my phone and got into a routine of watching 1 or 2 episodes per night in my bed. Even at that age, I didn't think it was a very good show. I found it more charming than I would today, but I was still fully aware that there were better things I could be watching on my phone during my post-bedtime hours. And today, when my critical mind is more developed, I consider it to, for the most part, be a quite shitty kids show. But that's a topic for another day, even though I could talk about it quite extensively. But no, the topic of this video is Stefan Karl. And even with the more critical and cynical eye through which I view the world in present time, he stands out to me as a primary redeeming quality of Lazy Town. He was a rare kind of actor, one I treasure greatly. The kind that tries so much harder than they have to. Nobody was really trying in this show. The actor for Sportacus was doing the standard slightly condescending kids show performance, the child actors were child actors, the writers were probably running on autopilot. Everyone kind of seemed to know what they were doing. A kids show prioritizing the generic message of eat healthy and go outside over actually being a good kids show. And then you have Stefan. Let's take a brief look at what character he's playing in this show. He's a villain whose primary trait is that he's the laziest man in the world, and yet he's moving around in a way that makes my stationary ass feel exhausted just looking at it. And he's constantly planning and executing schemes to make everyone else lazy as well. That already doesn't make sense. We're never given a reason why he wants others to be lazy, and if he really was that lazy he wouldn't care because it takes effort. For that matter, his secondary trait is that he's a master of disguise, yet he never hides his face and everyone in town keeps falling for it, even though there seems to be a total of less than a dozen people living there and one of them is known for disguising himself. Robbie Rotten is not a well-written character. His motivation makes no sense, he poses no kind of threat, his jokes aren't very funny. And yet Stefan Karl took this dead-on-arrival character, rubbed a pair of defibrillators together, and zapped more life into it than it should have been able to contain. He had so much energy, was so expressive, delivered every line with such enthusiasm, he was clearly having the time of his life playing this character. And watching him have so much fun with it, you can't help but have fun as well. I can count the amount of times I've seen that kind of performance on my right hand. When a character is clearly not supposed to be good, but for whatever reason the actor just cares really deeply about it, and their passion alone enhances it tremendously. I had such an appreciation for his acting that I looked up his work so that I may see more. I was disappointed to find that he really isn't a big actor. Go figure, he was in Lazy Town. But his talent was greatly disproportional to his filmography. Of course, we don't live in a world where talent and skill equals success. Anyway, since I would have to resort to watch obscure Icelandic plays and films in order to get more of his acting, I instead decided to look into him as a person. Check out his YouTube channel and other social media, that kind of thing. It's something I generally avoid doing because I dislike the sour realization that a person whose works I like is a total piece of shit, as they often seem to be. And as much as I would like to, I'm not very good at separating the art from the artist. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, and I'm not sure about the variables in my brain that decides which one it will be. But in the case of Stefan, that wasn't necessary. He turned out to be a delightful person even off screen, at least according to my findings. There's more for me to look at. I have yet to watch all the stuff on his YouTube channel and so on, and I guess I now will do that with the usual hindsight of only missing something when it's gone. I don't even know if I can blame my depression-induced procrastination for that. But he seemed like the kind of person nobody with a shred of decency would ever wish cancer upon. A good sport, never growing bitter about the memes surrounding him, but rather participating in them and encouraging them. A nice guy, but with a playful edge to him. The kind of person I would like to hang out with, but never actually would, even if I had the opportunity, due to my worry that my rather detestable personality would upset him, and I would never wish to be responsible for such a thing. We need more Stefan Karls in the world, not less. We have plenty of people that either don't add much at all to anyone's life, including their own, or take away from them. It's far too rare that we get someone who goes beyond what is expected of them in several aspects with delightful results. I try to be like him, not in the same vein, I'm much too hateful and venomous to be in the same category as him, but I try to at least be a hateful and venomous kind of person who adds to people's lives, both through my creative works and through hitting that sweet spot where my unlikable personality traits turn me into more of a lovable douche and a cynical wise man who can deliver the hard realities when others are too nice to. I still have a long way to go before I'm there, though, and Stefan has gone as far as he's ever going to, having ended his journey much too soon. He was still in good health, aside from his cancer obviously, and he still had people who brought him joy and who he brought joy in return. For everything he gave me and others, he deserved many more years of happiness. It's a bizarre thought to me, to mourn the loss of someone whose absence I probably would never notice otherwise. His performance as Robbie Rotten still exists to be rewatched, his YouTube videos are still up, the only difference is that nothing new will come. Which happens to actors anyway after a while, dead or alive. Eventually they retire. As far as I am aware, he might as well have retired. His death would otherwise have no impact on me. It impacts people far away from where I am, in a place I've never seen, full of people I've never met. I didn't personally know him and I didn't aspire to, so why do I still mourn him? I suppose it may be the same principle as when I get choked up watching a fictional character die in a film, or read about their death in a book. Human empathy is, faulty. For better or worse. We form connections to people we've never met, or that do not even exist, just by virtue of not knowing them but knowing of them. Our brains were clearly not built with that in mind, the prospect that we would one day have the capacity to create imaginary people, or form connections with people across the world. I sometimes say that I have very little empathy, but that's not true. The empathy I do have merely behaves in a manner that makes no sense, making it seem like I barely have any, and so that's what I say because it's easier. The first time I experienced a family death, I cried like a bitch. The second time I gave it a brief shrug, and the third time I was annoyed at having to give half-hearted comfort to those more affected in my family. Meanwhile, killing a minor villain in The Wolf Among Us left me sleepless. The mere thought of choosing not to return the ticket to the bee-lady in Frambeau almost made me cry. Attempting to kill off a character in my own stories often comes with feelings of regret and mourning, followed by a desire to undo their death. My feelings about Stefan Karl being gone forever are similarly detached from internal logic. I don't actually feel much about it at all. I mourn him on an intellectual level, but not so much on an emotional one. Perhaps because I had months to prepare, perhaps my emotional reaction was slowly drained over the course of all that time after the announcement that his cancer had become incurable. Or perhaps the realization that he's dead has yet to truly hit me. In more personal events, which I will keep vague for the sake of the people involved, there was recently a death within my social circle. The beloved pet of a friend passed away, one I had met only a handful of times. I felt very little about that, even though I wanted to feel more, and I think I will. I think that the next time I travel to meet that friend, the absence of their pet will finally sink in, and the emotional response to it will finally come with several months' delay. I don't think such a realization will ever come in the case of Stefan. As I said, I'm unlikely to ever notice that he's gone. All footage of him portrays him as being just as alive as it ever did, indifferent to the passing of time. No conditions have changed since his passing in ways that will make me truly recognize that he is dead. Even with the facts laid out before me, the part of my brain dealing with empathy seemingly demands physical evidence before mourning can properly begin. Perhaps it's not that either. Perhaps I simply have yet to wrap my head around the implications of death. I think that is the case for many people, perhaps even the majority. Even after having witnessed it, it's a difficult thing to imagine that someone is never coming back. That may be why people are so quick to reject that notion and pretend that they are still alive, just elsewhere. They aren't gone, they've passed away. They have not been removed, they've just been relocated. That's a much easier concept to understand. A much more difficult one to understand, let alone accept, is gone forever. We understand gone perfectly fine. As I'm recording this, my friends are gone. They have left to sleep. But they aren't gone forever, they will be back tomorrow. The day they aren't, the day they will never be back, will be a challenging one for me. Because while I have gone through several deaths among those around me, it has yet to be someone I interact with on a daily basis. Their absence will be immediately noticed and come with constant reminders. My mind can easily compute no more visits to Grandma. It can skip the part about her consciousness being forever lost and the mere option to visit her being forever unavailable. All her memories are gone, all my memories of her are all I'll ever have. It's something I can't fully process even as I'm reciting it out loud. But when faced with having to process no more good morning or good night from your friend, or all activities with your friend have become impossible, I'm not sure how many people whose departure I hardly notice will have to die before I'm even somewhat prepared for something like that. I would hope to die before them if that wouldn't mean forcing them through the very experience I seek to avoid. Stefan's passing will mean little to me, objectively speaking. When watching him as Robbie Rotten or whatever else I see him in, I may remind myself I'm watching a dead man. Beyond that, just like no more visits to Grandma, it's merely a simple no more content from Stefan. Which is unfortunate, but not nearly as devastating as it surely is to those who are close to him. Just like the loss of those close to me will be devastating if they don't lose me first. Life sucks. It sucks so much that even when it ends, it does so in a manner that we fear and seek to avoid. And while we may not care once it's over, mostly because we are no longer able to care, those around us are still very much able to and suffer because of it. There are countless ways of coping with that. Some delude themselves into thinking there's nothing they even need to cope with. Others achieve a form of optimism I can't understand and can only explain by calling it low expectations. Others try not to think about it. Others think about it way too much. Personally, I deeply wish for an escape from both life and death. It is a mindset that makes it tempting to believe in an afterlife, but I don't believe in that for which there is no evidence. So instead I merely hope for an afterlife. And I'm not willing to base my life on a vague hope any more than I'm willing to bet all my life savings on a roulette wheel. So for the duration I'm stuck in this shitty world, full of shitty people living my shitty life, naively wishing for a better one, I cope through reality escape. One of my deepest passions is fiction, because it at least provides me with the illusion of a better life for a little while. And at one point in my life, when I had quite a big need for it, Stefan Karl supplied me with it. For that I am grateful, even though he never noticed my gratitude in life, and certainly won't in death. Since he did not get to live a longer and happier life, which I believe he deserved, then at the very least I hope he got to die a happy death, in a good state of body and mind and satisfied with his run. This video is getting quite long and I should get to my closing statement, but I can't think of anything that will properly summarize everything I've tried to communicate. It feels like it would be in poor taste to end with the meme, but given the strange impact it had on the final time in his life, maybe it's appropriate. And since I can't think of any better conclusion, I suppose I'll go with that and hope it doesn't negatively flavor the rest of what I've said. Stefan, you were an exceptional character in a story that ended too early. You will be missed by the many people who you had a positive impact on, including me. You truly were number one.